All right, so here's the Doc race kit. I went with a 62, 66, and I got the T51R mod. But in a nutshell, it's a lot easier if you have a lift. To be honest with you, I didn't have a lift. I had it jacked up on jack stands and whatnot. But it was pretty tough. I think the first day I went about 13 hours straight, obviously dismantling everything, taking everything apart, getting the manifold ready with the flange and the exhaust housing, which the way I saw it was probably best if I just attached the entire turbo together to the manifold and then clocked it while it was already mounted. So that's what I did. But it's pretty tight in some spots, not gonna lie. So I do recommend that you definitely connect the manifold and the turbo on the flange first outside of the car, and then drop it in as one. If you don't remove, there's like an intake plastic here, and if you don't remove that, then the turbo is gonna have a hard time dropping in because it gets stuck on that. But once you remove that, it's pretty downhill from there. Make sure you have a second set of hands, because this is extremely heavy, especially with having the turbo connected to it for one person to do, and then you having to obviously start bolting everything up. Another issue that I ran into, and I'll pull this off so you can see. Yeah, I need new foam. But another issue I ran into was my O2 sensors. These O2 sensors do not sit in the factory location once you start installing everything back to normal and you have it plugged into the downpipe. So I actually had to remove it from the housing here a little bit. I had to extend them out, and I had to run the wires. I don't know if you can see back there. I had to run the wires behind the block and also heat wrap them, because they were literally about this far away from touching the runners. And I wasn't comfortable having it like that, so I decided to go ahead and just do it that way and have it heat wrapped with some sort of protection. I also heat wrapped the vacuum lines, since I did use the lines that came with Doc Race, and I bought a couple extra quick connects on Amazon to just make sure I had enough. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. There's not much besides the questions that I got for the max solenoid. Now, I have it mounted here. I really couldn't find another place at the time where I could mount it and have it super secure, so right now it's tie wrapped here. Wiring process, you basically, I have a reflex with the plug and play harness, the Tensility plug and play kit, and they come with these extra auxiliary wires. And basically what you do is you attach the tube wires that come from the max solenoid to one of those attachments, and you pretty much just run it to one of your aux connections, which I believe is this one hiding down here in the back, and that one is labeled, see if I can see it from here, that's aux out 1 with the 12 volt. So that's where you're going to wire up the max solenoid, and I just ran it through here and I taped it up with some factory wiring tape. so it doesn't look crazy. But pretty much that's what I did. Also, I have the O10 bar low pressure fuel sensor that sits under there, which comes with its own plug on the plug and play harness, so that's pretty self-explanatory. So the only things that I really plugged into the aux connections was the max solenoid and I believe there was one more thing. Let me see. Yeah, what did this run to? This is the O10 low pressure fuel sensor. So that would connect basically to, where is it going? That's gonna go to aux in 2, and it also is labeled here fuel PSI. Besides that, everything else is pretty straightforward. And once you do that, then you go ahead and set up your motive with Tuner Pro. And if you have any questions, I would suggest to just kind of hit up your tuner, whoever is helping you out with that, and they'll pretty much guide you through the process. What I had my tuner do was I actually had him plug into the car remotely, and he took over the laptop and he just made sure all the settings and everything were correct after I did everything myself. Which for the most part it was. We did run into one problem, which was when he sent me the bin file initially, I think he was under the assumption that I had port injection, which I didn't. As you can see here, I just had the connections sitting here with my stock intake manifold, which I'm actually upgrading soon. But we were getting an injection error in Tuner Pro, and also an error on MHD that would say reflex PI injector error. And the way to fix that is super simple. Basically, in Tuner Pro, you want to go ahead and double click on cylinders, and you want to make sure that you're selecting 0 and telling the Tuner Pro program that you do not have injectors. And once you do that, the code just goes away, and then you shouldn't have any codes on the dash or whatnot, and you should be good to go. Because I was actually getting limp mode, and the car wouldn't go into boost or anything like that. So something to keep in mind if it happens to you. But yeah, that's pretty much my review. My review of the kit is, I like it. It is a little tough to work on when it's time to do some maintenance. As you can see, if you needed to ever reach the oil feed line, it's in a tight spot. This part here is pretty accessible, where the feed line goes in. I actually capped off my crankcase ventilation here. Some people just have the line coming out and venting it to atmosphere. My tuner said it was okay to just plug it, so I actually got this fitting from Vargas Turbo, because Doc Race doesn't provide you with that. The only thing Doc Race does provide you with is a plug here, this for this ventilation with a filter, but they do not provide you with the plug that's down there. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'm pointing at it. But that is the crankcase ventilation. So you can find this fitting on Vargas Turbo. It's pretty cheap. I think it was like maybe 20 bucks. So I went with that for now. Also, when you're plugging in these wastegates and you have the spring loaded in there, I suggest that you pressurize the wastegates with a some type of pressurizing gun, or like one of those brake bleeder guns that you can use, where you can just pump up real quick to like 20 psi, and it is literally going to take you 5 minutes to put everything in. The back one is a little more difficult to get to. I wouldn't recommend putting it on the manifold first and then dropping the manifold in, because then you might not have much space. If you can and it works for you, then I would do that. But I did mine afterwards. Again, a little tight, as you can see, but if you run a line to one of the vacuum lines, I believe we did the top one, and we just pumped it up to about 20 psi where it opened the spring, and it's super simple to plug in. And I do recommend small tools. The smaller the tools you have, the better. It made the job a lot easier for me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Overall, I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10 as far as reliability. I did have one issue where, and I probably won't even be able to show you this, but I had one of the housing bolts down here under the feed line actually just eventually screw right out, and it's probably because I didn't tighten it, you know, correctly the first time. But it caused an exhaust leak, which I ended up getting fixed. Did it myself. Took me about a couple hours to get my hand in there and reach in there and put it back. But besides that, man, I love the kit, and it's been fun so far driving it. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, hit me up, and I could always go over something that I missed, and we can go ahead and talk about it. But thanks for watching, guys.